May be seated. Well, welcome to Super Sunday, the sequel. Welcome to Super Sunday the week after. Now, there'll be no one jumping off the Grand Plaza roof attached to cables that I know of. There's no Brady on the program, but on closer inspection, there are Patriots, Valley Patriots, and they're a bunch of Falcons, Bushland Falcons. So, unlike last week's event, though, where the average ticket price was $5,650, this event is about $5,650 less. Having said that, we do have a tip jar at the back, and so let your conscience be your guide as you leave. What I guess I'm saying is welcome to an afternoon of sports celebration with a distinct Panhandle flavor. Welcome to a gathering where the best of today and the best of yesterday are honored among their family, friends, and even rivals. Welcome to an idea that has stood the sometimes harsh test of time. Welcome to the 59th annual Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame ceremonies. 59 years, more than half a century. That's a long time. That's longer by than 8 years than the Super Bowl, and sometimes it's been longer than the Super Bowl, but not lately. We've made some streamlined changes, and we've made some major changes, too, for the better. Starting 2 years ago with our new leading sponsor, Kids Incorporated, which, if you are familiar with Kids Inc., is the perfect sponsor for the Hall. As a matter of fact, 2 inductees today are Kids Inc. alumni. And if 59 years sounds like a long time, Kids Inc. has been around longer than by 13 years, 72 to be exact. So for the second year, thanks to Kids Inc. Executive Director Jimmy Lackey, we are now in a new venue. Through 2015, Amarillo College was the site and had been the site since basketball had laces. But it's a bigger, roomier site today, and eventually, sooner rather than later, Kids Inc. will be the permanent site of the Hall of Fame with a lot of new interactive bells and whistles. So for the 59th time, folks just like you have gathered to reflect and honor the local greats who have earned induction into this shrine that will total by the end of the day 175. And we'll also honor the current crop of athletes and coaches who add to the rich sports tradition of the Panhandle. This afternoon, we will induct number 171, 172, 173, 174, and 175 into the Hall of Fame. And this is pretty unique for this little top of Texas. There aren't many regions which have something like this, or certainly something like this for this long. I've talked to some outside the area who have been to these, and they all seem to say the same thing. Do you know how nice this is, and I wish we had something like this too. Well, there is one because a man named Put Powell, a longtime Amarillo Globe News sports columnist, and advertising executive John Heatland, they put their energies and ideas together and enlisted the help of the YMCA. And they built something a little special, a little unique, a lasting tribute to the sports and the men and the women who play them in the Panhandle. And after their deaths, the baton was picked up by Garrett Von Netzer, Warren Hassey, and now David Jones, among others, to continue on. And when the YMCA closed here, Kids Inc. enthusiastically stepped in. And for nearly 60 years, it's still going strong. It's going strong because the Hall of Fame is not so much about plaques and pictures on a wall and soon an interactive display, but it's about people. It's about those with dreams and goals, athletes and coaches who love being in the arena, who got to this place by work, talent, and the competitiveness to be the best they can be every play, every game, every day. And many of you in the audience are their support system. Those on stage here will be the first to say that they are, in so many words, a tree with a deep root system that extends to coaches, and parents, wives, husbands, older brother and sister, friends, certainly to teammates. Many of you who have played a big role in their lives are here today as you've been in a lot of big moments in their lives. And you've played a role in their success, and in a way, their award and recognition is yours as well. Before we move along with the program, there are always former members of the Hall of Fame who come back each year. I think they come back for the free food and to show off their hearing aids and hip replacement surgery, but they're still here. So if you would you stand so that we can recognize you at this time? And if you think, man, I'm tired of getting stiffed and I should be in the Hall of Fame too, would you please stand? Well, all right. You know, every year I say I'm going to quit saying that, but as long as at least one person stands, who am I to quit? On a serious note, we have lost two Hall of Famers within the last year. Gib Ford, Amarillo High, University of Texas basketball player, played on the 1956 Olympics. He was the 27th inductee in 1972. And Wayland Flying Queen great Lamita Odom of Dimmitt. She was the first women inductee in 1971. Again, welcome athletes, coaches, inductees, friends, and family. You'll be glad that you gave up a portion of your Sunday afternoon to be here. And now to voice our invocation and to welcome you is the Executive Director of Kids, Inc., the corporate sponsor of the Hall of Fame, Mr. Jimmy Lackey.
Would you pause with me and let's go to the Lord in prayer, please? Father, what an awesome day, what an awesome opportunity for us to gather here today. Gathering with people who are the gifts of yours from God-given talent through athletics, sports, and a huge part of our culture here in the Texas Panhandle. Sports are a way of life here. We thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for the individuals who will be recognized today, their families, their friends that have made their way here today to be with them. Be with us as we go our separate ways following this event. Thank you for all the blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day. These things we pray in your name. Amen. Real quickly, my part's going to be very short. All I'm going to do is pass out plaques today. Hide here in the back, but it is a wonderful opportunity for us, and we are so grateful to have the opportunity to make something of this Texas Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. It will actually have a permanent home that people will be able to come and see as part of the daily life of Amarillo, Texas, on the Convention and Visitors Council's tourism spots to come and visit. There'll be memorabilia, there'll be interactive video, and lots of things once we get finished with it. Real quickly, I want to recognize a couple of people that have made today happen that are behind the scenes, and I have no idea where they are. Now she's hiding. I see one of them back there trying to hide behind the column. Stacy Knight is the Director of Development and Public Relations for Kids Incorporated, and anything that has anything to do with the organization, and I know our recipients know this, you've heard from her, you've received correspondence from her to make this thing happen today. Stacy is standing over here. Wave your hand. Please give her a huge round of applause. Also, our marketing and communications coordinator, Renee Stovall, is probably, there she is. She's working directly back there with Joe Luscombe and their group, New Day Productions. Joe and Debbie have been big partners of ours for years, and all the video and things that you see. Your program, and I told everybody yesterday, anything that looks pretty came from Renee's hand, so give her a big round of applause. Sit back and enjoy. The restrooms are right there. We're going to be here for a little bit. There's still plenty of snacks. Don't be afraid to get up and go help yourself if you want something during this event. But enjoy, and let's celebrate athletics in our part of the world. Thank you very much.
Well, this is the portion of the program where the present paves the way for the past. This is a day of recognition, not just for our 5 inductees in their lives today, but for the current accomplishments by some who may one day themselves be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's the honoring of the coaches and athletes of the year, now in 11 sports. You know, the calendar year of 2016 was a typically strong year in the Panhandle. The Panhandle has always been fortunate to have some of the best coaching in the state, but that's not to diminish those who make it happen, the athletes, those who, as distance runner Emil Zatopek once said, compete with hope in their hearts and dreams in their heads. So let's meet the athletes of the year for 2016. In baseball, Clay Kelzer was a fixture in the Amarillo High program, a three-year starter who in 2016 led the Sandies to their furthest playoff advancement in 63 years. He was a catcher on the Globe News Super Team in 2015, hitting .380 with 4 home runs and 28 RBIs. But that just paved the way for an exceptional senior season. A senior leader on mostly an underclassmen team, Clay led the Sandies to the Class 6A baseball state tournament, a run to the state semifinals for the first time since 1953. A switch hitter, Clay hit a robust .441 with 4 home runs and 43 RBIs and was a strong defensive presence behind the plate. In the playoffs, he upped his game with 13 RBIs, including 6 in a win over Midland, and had the key hit, perhaps of the entire playoffs, an RBI single in the 8th inning in a must-win game over Fort Worth Paschal that won the game 1-0. Clay was a first-team All-State 6A honoree, the Globe News Super Team Player of the Year, and he signed collegiately to play at Texas Tech. He could not be here today, so accepting is his brother Brandon. For a man who may go down as the best catcher in Amarillo High history, the 2016 Hall of Fame Baseball Player of the Year from Amarillo High, Clay Kelzer. In basketball, you know, sometimes when you're the youngest of 3 sisters, all you're trying to do is match what the older 2 did. In the basketball playing family of Sharon and Johnny Hampton, who's an assistant coach at Canyon, are their 3 daughters, Jordan, Brittany, and Nicole. All 3 were standouts at Canyon High School, and since 2005, at least one of the Jordan sisters has been playing basketball at Lubbock Christian University. No offense to Jordan and Brittany, but the best may have been saved for last. In LCU's first year in the NCAA Division II, Nicole led the Lady Chaps to an undefeated 35-0 season and to the national title in April with a 78-73 win over Alaska Anchorage, only the 3rd Division II team to finish with an unbeaten record. In the Elite 8 national tournament in Indianapolis, she was named the tournament's most outstanding player. And in the championship game, the 5'10" point guard had 22 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, almost a triple-double, and 7 assists, almost a quadruple-double. Nicole was redshirted prior to last year, meaning that she sat out the year in anticipation of LCU's first year in NCAA. And man, did that decision pay off. She was named All-American First Team on the 2 recognized teams for All-Americans. She averaged 19.6 points, 9.9 rebounds, 8.3 assists, and 4 steals. She shot 90% from the free throw line and led the nation in assists to turnover ratio. In addition to All-American honors, Nicole was the South Central Regional Player of the Year and the Heartland Conference Player of the Year. A 3-time All-American, the first 2 in NAIA, Nicole left LCU as the career leader in scoring, rebounds, steals, and assists. The 2016 Hall of Fame Basketball Player of the Year from Canyon and Lubbock Christian, Nicole Hampton. Congratulations, Nicole. Congratulations. In cross country, in the past, the sport of cross country has been recognized within the realm of Special Achievement Awards. But with the continued growth and success in this area, in this fall sport, It has certainly earned a place among the growing sports of wrestling and softball, which have been added in recent years. And this year marks the first year for cross country to be recognized by itself and on an annual basis with the other sports. And boy, what an initial athlete we have. I don't know who had the idea to try Butari Ruganarwa of Amarillo High in cross country, but they should take a bow. He was a soccer player, but Butari tried cross country last fall for the first time. Did pretty well. Won the 3-mile race in his first meet. Won the Amarillo Invitational in his second meet in 16 minutes, 47 seconds, and so it went. The more Butari trained, the more he understood tactics, the more experience he got, the faster he went. He won the District 3-5A meet. And then at the regional meet in Lubbock, Butari qualified for the state meet with a second-place finish in 15 minutes, 33 seconds. Still a healthy 22 seconds behind the winner, Graydon Morris of Aledo. But man, that state meet. Butari, Morris, and Ace Castillo of Corpus Christi Tuloso Midway broke free from the pack in this 3-mile race with about 80 yards left. And in a furious kick among all three, it was Butari who came home first. Morris, who beat him by 22 seconds at regional, ran a 15:15. Castillo ran the fourth fastest time ever at the state meet in 15:10. It wasn't good enough. Butari had too much for all of them, winning the state title in 15 minutes, 8 seconds, the third fastest time ever run at the UIL State Cross Country Meet. Said Castillo, I had no idea who he was. He just came out of nowhere. And did he ever? The initial Hall of Fame Cross Country Athlete of the Year from Amarillo High, Butari Ruganarwa. Congratulations, Butari. Congratulations. In football, in the smaller classes of high school football, unlike the larger ones, the best players seldom leave the field. It's football in its purest and most versatile form. Holton Huffstedler was just that for Canadian, which over the last 3 years has won 2 2A state titles, and in 2016 was a semifinalist in Class 3A. As a 6'1", 210-pound senior, Holton was a mainstay on one of the most dominant runs in Panhandle history. He was the top 2A player on the Wildcats as a linebacker and tight end. An all-state linebacker as a junior in 2015, this past season, he had more than 200 tackles. He also forced 11 fumbles and recovered 3, was named the Class 3A Defensive Player of the Year by the Texas Sports Writers Association. As a tight end, Holton caught 38 passes for 471 yards, 6 touchdowns, and averaged 12.4 yards a catch. He was also used from time to time as a short yardage runner. He was all-district, as well as the Globe News Class 4A 3A Player of the Year, as Canadian finished with a 12-3 record and a semifinal loss to eventual state champion Gunner. The 2016 Hall of Fame Football Player of the Year from the powerhouse that is Canadian, Holton Huffstedler. In golf, Kyle Kelting, perhaps the top amateur golfer in Amarillo over a long period of time, has been a multi-winner of this award. But the 2016 summer golf season might have been his best, and if not his best, certainly his most rewarding. Kyle, at age 53, won 4 major summer golf tournaments, including the biggest of them all, the Coors Tournament of Champions. He initially qualified for the Tournament of Champions by winning the 2015 Street Toyota Senior Classic. Then he and Tom Dowdy, who has been a regular here as well, teamed together to win the Coors Light Senior Partnership. Then he and his son Derek partnered to win the Budweiser Partnership, and Kyle's birdie on the 36th hole and final hole that last day sealed the win. But in the Tournament of Champions in August, Kyle shot a 7-under par 280 over 3 different courses to win by 9 strokes. In winning his second Tournament of Champions, and the oldest winner at age 53, he has now won his 2 titles 18 years apart. At one point, he recorded 28 bogey-free holes in a row. Impressive, and an impressive year. The Hall of Fame Golfer of the Year from Amarillo, Kyle Kelting. Kyle, congratulations. Very well deserved. In soccer, there are co-winners. Few have done it better longer than midfielder Bobby Carlton of Amarillo High. This past spring, he concluded a 4-year varsity career in which he played 95 matches for the Sandies, scoring 30 goals and notching 20 assists in that span. As a freshman in 2013, he was named the district's Newcomer of the Year and first-team All-District, and he just got better as he got older. As he was in 2015 as a junior, last spring Bobby was named first-team All-District and for the second year in a row, the District 2-6A MVP. In addition, he was second-team Class 6A All-State, was academic All-State, and was named to the Panhandle Soccer Coaches Association All-Star Team and on the Texas Association of Soccer Coaches All-Star Team. He signed with and is now playing for Adams State in Colorado. The Hall of Fame Co-Soccer Player of the Year from Amarillo High is Bobby Carlton. Ricky Galdine of Randall had 27 goals and 5 assists in earning District 3 5A MVP for the Lady Raiders in their march to the 5A regional quarterfinals. Ricky was also team MVP and second team All-Region. In her 4-year career in which she was a 2-time district MVP, Ricky had 46 goals and 34 assists. In May, she was the MVP of the Panhandle Soccer Coaches Association All-Star Game at River Road with a goal and an assist in leading the South to a 4-0 win. Ricky received the Senior Excellence Award from the National Soccer Coaches Association of America and partnered with ADVO of Amarillo on several events, including joining the Special Olympics United Sports Group at the Penn Relays in Philadelphia. She signed and is now playing for Eastern New Mexico over in Portales. The Hall of Fame Co-Soccer Athlete of the Year from Randall High School, Ricky Galdine. You gotta play hurt, don't you? Yeah. In softball, if anyone wants to know why Canyon matched the furthest advancement in area history by going to the Class 5A regional finals for the second year in a row, one step from state, we'll look no further than senior shortstop Alex Cordell. She's able to do all of that on the field, at the plate, leadership in the dugout. After batting .513 as a junior 2 years ago, Alex was remarkably consistent again as a senior for the 30-8 Lady Eagles, hitting .517 with 15 doubles to go along with 7 home runs, 40 RBIs, 60 runs scored, and in 153 plate appearances, she struck out only 6 times. At the demanding defensive position of shortstop, Alex had just 5 errors in 38 games with a .964 fielding percentage, 51 putouts, 52 assists. She was, for the second straight year, the District 3 5A MVP and was also All-State on the Texas Girls Coaches Association team. Coach Kevin Blaskowski of WT saved a little on the recruiting budget as he went through maybe a couple of stoplights and a yield sign or two to sign her where she is currently a freshman for the Lady Buffs. The Softball Player of the Year from Canyon High School, Alex Cordell. In tennis, well, if the last name is Zavala, which is kind of the first family of tennis in Amarillo, then chances are he's going to be pretty good. Well, going to be, well, he already is. Avery Zavala may be only a freshman at Tascosa, but he's made an impact in the state and really in the country. He's been dominant against his own age group for several years. Way back in boys 12 singles, he earned a USTA #1 ranking in the state of Texas. Then last year, when he got to be the ripe age of 13, Avery moved into boys 14 singles, and he's #1 in the state there as well. And even though he won't turn 15 until April, he's already #11 in the state in 16 and under singles. As a 4-star recruit, they are already putting stars on recruits now, even at that age. He's already ranked 65th nationally as a college recruit and 8th in Texas. Considering his high school season is just getting underway, that's going to only get better. This past fall, during the fall team tennis season, Avery won all 15 of his matches to help Tascosa to the Class 6A regional tournament. Whatever is beyond the sky, well, that's the limit for Avery. He's no doubt going to do some awfully big things and already has. The Hall of Fame Tennis Athlete of the Year from Amarillo and Tascosa High School, Avery Zavala. In track, Jake Merrill is special. Not will be. He is special. Out of Valley High School, which is the consolidated school between Turkey and Kittiquay, Jake has already done things that no one in the Panhandle ever has. To begin with, he set the all-time area high school record in the 800 at the 1A regional meet last year, breaking a record that was 39 years old when he ran the 800 in 1:51.6 as a sophomore. Jake went on to the state meet in Austin, where he easily won and set 1A state meet records in the 800 in 1:55.1 and in the 1600 in 4:22.6. After the state meet and an invitational meet of some of the top runners in the state, he ran the 1600, which is the metric mile. And he did that in 4 minutes, 13 seconds. And that, too, is an all-time area record, breaking a record that stood for 45 years. And you think, well, he's only getting started. A big-time runner from a small high school, the Hall of Fame Track Athlete of the Year from Valley High School, Jake Merrill. Jake, congratulations. Excellent job. In volleyball, in the long list of outstanding volleyball players from the storied Amarillo High program, it doesn't take long to get to the name of Emerson Solano. Emerson was a 4-year member of the Lady Sandy's volleyball team, and even though she was the Hall of Fame volleyball player last year as a junior, the 5'8" outside hitter really kind of saved her best for this year. She led Amarillo High to a 43-6 record and to the school's 10th state title in November, one that was clinched with a 4-set win over Cedar Park. In that tournament, in the semifinals and finals, she would go on to claim the 5A state tournament MVP honors. For the year, our numbers were 559 kills, 495 digs, and 73 kills. On a state championship, it kind of translates to these honors. She was the state's Player of the Year in Class 5A on the Texas Sports Writers Association and on the Texas Association of Volleyball Coaches teams. She was first team All-American on the Max Preps All-American team. There are only 17 of those in the country, and she was only one of 2 from Texas. She was the 34th college prospect in the country, and Emerson signed with Texas Tech in November. Said Tech coach Tony Greystone is former volleyball coach at West Texas A&M. Emerson has had outstanding coaching at the high school level, is a proven winner, and is ultra competitive. For the second year in a row, the Hall of Fame Volleyball Athlete of the Year from Amarillo High, Emerson Solano. Congratulations. Very well done. Very well done. In wrestling, 2 state champions, 2 43-0 records, 1 high school. That's why there's co-wrestlers of the year. For Mario Vasquez, the senior from Palo Duro, he was a 4-time state tournament qualifier, where before last February he had finished previously 6th and 4th at the state tournament. But in 2016, he was not to be denied. He entered the state tournament with a 39-0 record and won 4 matches, including a 5-2 decision over Verley Sessions of Frisco Liberty in the Class 5A finals to cap an unbeaten season in the 132-pound weight class. Mario's 4-year record was 122-23. He now wrestles for the University of the Ozarks in Clarksville, Arkansas, so accepting is his aunt Gabby Rojas for the Hall of Fame Wrestler of the Year from Palo Duro High School, Mario Vasquez. Congratulations to him. All right, here's Arthur. Thank you. The other co-winner, he shared the same workouts, the same road trips, the same number of victories, the same hardware. In 2015, Khalil Gibson was 5th at the state tournament at 195 pounds. Last year, as a senior, he dominated at 220 pounds. The lesson here, let him eat, for crying out loud. Like Mario, he too finished with a 43-0 record, albeit at 88 pounds more. But he dominated at that weight division all year long and ended his high school career with a flourish with the pen of Alex Hernandez of Frisco Liberty in the 5A state finals. Khalil also advanced to the state track meet 3 months later in the Class 5A discus. He signed to wrestle at Adams State in Alamosa, Colorado. So accepting, I believe she's here, is his mother, Roxanne Gibson, for the Hall of Fame Co-Wrestler of the Year from Palo Duro High School, Khalil Gibson. Congratulations to you. Join me, if you will, once again in recognizing our Hall of Fame Athletes of the Year for 2016. Well, the Super Team Award annually goes to the top team of the year regardless of sport. And when you include all these sports and all these levels in an area like the Panhandle, well, it has to be a pretty special team, and it is. To present that award is the sports editor of the Globe News and a Hall of Fame board member, Lance Launer. Lance?
The C.L. Donovan Jr. Super Team Award goes to a team that is outstanding during the year. Donovan graduated from Amarillo High School in 1930, where he was a 117-pound halfback. He went to Texas Tech in 1931 and played quarterback and returned kickoffs. He played on Texas Tech's first golf and tennis teams in 1931. Later, he boxed for the University of Arizona and had a tryout with baseball's St. Louis Cardinals. In a previous interview with the Amarillo Globe News, Donovan said, "If you have only one line in the water, you're liable to catch only one fish. If you have several lines in the water, you're liable to catch several fish." He was the only person to win the city championship in golf and tennis. He missed the city bowling championship by 1 pin. He was named the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame Golfer of the Year in 1970 and served as director of the Tri-State Senior Golf Association for many years.
And he apologized for the voice, got a little cold, but I really enjoy this day. It's just amazing to see all these people up here, so I'm here, and we'll get through this. The amount written is volumes on this program and their coach, but the Canyon High Lady Eagles and Joe Lombard continue to write new chapters. While on the outside, it's the same purple jerseys, purple and white jerseys, the same Canyon across the front, the same solid defense and excellent shot selection, each players take on new roles and responsibilities. and seemed to not miss a beat. The 2015-16 Lady Eagles had the pressure of pulling off a state championship three-peat. They did not want to be the ones to end the streak. And did they ever handle the pressure? Canyon rolled to a 35-1 record, included going undefeated in District 3-5A. They coasted through the first 4 playoff games, winning by an average of 35 points. Regionals was a little tougher. They had to pull out a 9-point win over Wichita Falls Rider. And then they delivered at state in Austin. Canyon won by 30 points in the state semifinals over Crosby and made it a three-peat, beating Frisco Liberty 41-34 with Angel Hayden sparking the win. Hayden was on all 3 of those state championship teams, and she was named the MVP of the state championship game. It was the 18th state championship in Canyon High history, and it was also moved their record to 43-8, also a state record at state tournament games alone. And then just a little icing on the cake, 3 months later, Coach Joe Lombard goes into the Women's National Basketball Hall of Fame in Tennessee. His amazing record is 1,285 wins and 120 losses. So you do the math on that one, and he could go on a 1,000-game losing streak and still be 165 wins over 500. We're honored here to have Coach Lombard representing his Canyon 80 Eagles as the winner of the 2016 C.L. Donovan Award.
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, it's the team, so can I have the team? Would you guys mind coming up here and just standing right here in front of the stage? You got to come real quick, like 10 seconds. I'd like to say just a couple things. First of all, on behalf of the team, we'd like to thank the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame for allowing us to be Team of the Year. I mean, like Lance said, there's so many great teams and so many sports. We're very honored to accept this. And I'd like to say just a couple things along there. Where's Bob Snyder at? Bob, raise your hand. Where are you, man? Back there. Okay. He's the guy that started this thing. Let's give him a nice round of applause. I learned a lot of stuff from Bob throughout my coaching career. And then my assistant coaches, Johnny Hampton and Cody Smith, why don't you guys raise your hand, or Johnny, raise your hand out there. Give him a hand. And then these young ladies in front of you, of course, some of these have graduated and moved on, but they had one of those unbelievable seasons that you'll never forget, and they were special. And I know all of us will remember this forever, but it was a team that was, we had about 20 players. That's a lot for a basketball team. And so they all had to make their own little sacrifices to allow the team to accomplish what they did. And so we had some great individual players, but we had great character, and we had great team chemistry, and I think that is what pushed us over the top. So once again, thank you so much, and thanks the ladies. Just a fantastic year. Thank you.
I think if Joe lost 1,000 in a row, even he would get fired on that. Now we move on to a group that has sat here patiently looking at all these athletes of the year, marveling to themselves how well they must listen, how well they must take instruction, just how wonderfully coachable they must be. And this is a group, our athletes are thinking, it's people like us that make you look good. It's the coaches of the year for 2016. In baseball, You know it's a special season when winning your 500th career game turns into a mere footnote on the way to unprecedented success. Amarillo High coach Jeff Timmons, 27 years as a head baseball coach and sixth with Amarillo High, notched his 500th career win in March. But in that career, he never had a year quite like this past spring. With an extremely young team, starting as many as 5 sophomores, Amarillo High nevertheless did what no Sandy team has done since 1953, and that's advance to the state tournament. Amarillo High was led by catcher Clay Kelzer, but it relied on sophomores such as pitchers Mason Mays and Trevor Andrus, who pitched like anything but sophomores. They finished with a 32-15 record and obviously caught fire in the playoffs with series wins over El Paso Eastwood and Midland, Fort Worth Pascal, Keller, and Midland Lee. 4 out of those 5 series were decided in the third and deciding game. Then the Class 6A state semifinals in Austin, Amarillo High fell in a heartbreaker to San Antonio Johnson 2-1. And even though they lost, they confirmed that they belonged among the state's best. The Hall of Fame Baseball Coach of the Year from Amarillo High, Jeff Timmons. In basketball, well, you just heard where Amarillo High baseball accomplished something not done in 63 years. Well, the Tascosa basketball team dipped down in the 1950s for a rare accomplishment, too. Actually, Steve Jackson guided the Rebels to the school's first ever unbeaten regular season, the only one since Tascosa opened in 1958. Coach Jackson, himself a former Rebel, guided Tascosa to a 29-0 mark in the regular season, punctuated with a 76-45 win at home over Friendship to clinch the title. It was only the second undefeated regular season ever by an AISD boys team, the other belonging to Palo Duro in 2008. The Rebels lacked size down low, but they made up for that with athleticism, quickness, defense, scoring balance, and good coaching. They were led by 6'2" Darius Brown and 6'1" Quinn Taylor, and then they had a lot of depth after that. Tascosa eventually stretched their winning streak to 31 games with playoff wins over El Paso Coronado and Arlington Bowie before falling to Arlington Martin in the regional quarterfinals. Now in his 4th season since Coach Jackson arrived, the wins have followed. Currently, Tascosa's record under him is 99-15. The Hall of Fame Basketball Coach of the Year from Tascosa High School, Steve Jackson. In cross country, it takes a special motivator to get kids to buy into the demands of the kind of training that it takes to compete statewide in cross country. Training that often begins in July, 6 weeks before school starts. However it's done, Rebecca James knows how to do it. She's been coaching and teaching in the Canyon ISD since 1982 and is a charter teacher coach at Randall when it opened in 1988. Her girls cross-country teams won back-to-back 5A state titles in 2013 and 14, and last November, under the guidance of Coach James, the Lady Raiders won their 3rd state crown in 4 years. At the regional meet, Randall won with 58 points, while Canyon, their neighbor just to the south, had 77 points, and Grapevine was a rather distant 3rd with 123. At the state meet, their top 3 scorers, Chris Betson, Daphne Pate, and Hannah Moreno, finished 11th, 12th, and 13th in the 3-mile race to key the win. Other scoring runners were Madeline Cadles and Jane Luders. Randall edged Prosper 68 points to 72 to again come home as state champions, the 3rd in 4 years. The inaugural cross-country Coach of the Year from Randall High School, Rebecca James. In football, the challenge was certainly going to be greater for Canadian than they had faced in several years. The Wildcats staked their claim to the best 2A team in state history when they dominated in every way possible in going 16-0 and winning the 2015 state title. But they lost 19 seniors off of that team, and they were also moving up to Class 3A. But Coach Chris Ketting, though, he has a program, a system on how to do things from the junior high on up, a program that he inherited from Kyle Lynch and has kind of kept at a high productive level. Canadian had its 31-game winning streak, which was tied for tops in the area, broken in the opener, 38-35 by Bushland. They lost their third game, 24-14 to Perryton. But faced with some rare adversity, Canadian answered back. Under Coach Ketting, they would win their next 11 in a row. Led by linebacker Holton Huffstedler, quarterback Corbin Dowdett, and wide receiver defensive back Cameron Copley, the Wildcats advanced to the Class 3A Division II semifinals. In the playoffs, they were really on their game, winning close games. They won back-to-back last-minute wins, 21-19 over Coleman, 27-21 overtime win over Sonora. It took the eventual state champions, unbeaten Gunner, to eliminate Canadian in the semifinals 44-34. But they proved what most knew all along, and that Canadian is more than just a couple of good athletic classes. The Wildcats finished with a 12-3 record, and in Coach Ketting's seventh season, his teams have compiled a record of 86-13. For the second year in a row, the Hall of Fame Football Coach of the Year from Canadian High School, Chris Ketting. Chris, congratulations. In golf, 2 years ago, 2015, happy coach Barry Stevens had a very young golf team, a junior, 4 sophomores, and a freshman. Despite the youth, the Cowboys finished second in the 1A state tournament. That coming close only served to make Coach Stevens' group that much more focused and hungry. The team of Mitchell Downing, Sterling White, Zach Flatt, Trevor Phillips, and Carson Bryan won the Region 1A tournament by a ridiculous 132 shots over 2 days, and Downing shot a 2-day total of 150. That again sent the Cowboys to the state tournament in Austin, and there was no runner-up this time. They shot a 2-day total of 673, winning by 51 strokes over the team from Douglas. Happy led by 22 shots after the first day, and then buried the competition the second day. Downing was second in the medalist race with a 2-day total of 153. It was Happy's first state title in any team sport, and it was Coach Stevens' first state championship in 42 years of coaching various sports. For the second year in a row, the coach who kept them focused and on point, the Hall of Fame Golf Coach of the Year from Happy High School, Barry Stevens. Barry, congratulations. Excellent job. Excellent job. You bet. In soccer, it was a breakthrough season like no other for Coach Mark Smith and the Caprock girls. The Lady Longhorns won their first district title in 3-5A for the first time in school history and going undefeated with 11-0-1 mark. Their overall record of 17-6-2 was the best in school history. Coach Smith led Caprock to the 5A regional quarterfinals. After a bye in the first round, the Lady Longhorns defeated El Paso Bel Air 2-1 before falling to El Paso High 2-0 in the quarterfinals. Coach Smith was named the district's top coach, and he had plenty of help in doing so. Caprock was led by district MVP Jessica Diaz, and 5 others were named all-district first team. Forward Mariana Lopez, midfielder Alondro Santos, defenders Nuvia Palacios and Lynette Alamo, and goalkeeper Marina Arhan. For guiding Caprock, the Lady Longhorns to their best year in school history, the Hall of Fame Soccer Coach of the Year, Mark Smith. Congratulations. Well done. Well done. In softball, it probably seems another lifetime ago that Kevin Blaskowski came to West Texas A&M in 2006 to start the Lady Buffs program. That year, WT was 11-43, but the arrow pointed up and has been up for over a decade. In 2016, Coach B led WT to its second appearance in the NCAA Division II College World Series in 3 years. The Lady Buffs opened the year by setting Lone Star Conference and South Central regional marks with 30 consecutive wins, and they didn't slow down much after that. WT finished LSC play with a 30-2 record and rolled to its third consecutive conference crown, clinching the title with 2 weeks left in the season. In the South Central Regional Tournament, the Lady Buffs had to come through the losers bracket, including a 2-game sweep of Colorado Mesa, sealed by a walk-off home run. In the South Central Super Regionals, WT swept St. Mary's to advance to the World Series in Denver. Looking for another national title like the one in 2014, WT would finish 5th and end the season with a sparkling 59-5 record. Outfielder Ashley Harden was named first-team All-American, and pitcher Torrey Byer, catcher Lacey Taylor, and outfielder Brittany Cruz were named to the third team. WT's record the last 3 seasons, 164-23. The coach who put all this together, the Hall of Fame Softball Coach of the Year from West Texas A&M, Kevin Blaskowski. Kevin, congratulations. Excellent job. You betcha. Great job. In tennis, it was perhaps the best year ever in team tennis for a team in one of the top classes in the Texas Panhandle. But for Coach Darby Norman and Randall High School, the best year ended in a very tough way as the Raiders came oh so close to winning a regional title and going to state. In the fall team tennis, Randall advanced to the regional tournament in Wichita Falls in October, and from there, including a 10-1 rout over traditional power Wichita Falls rider, Randall moved into the regional finals. Randall had a record of 25-1. In Grapevine, their opponent was the 2-time defending 5A state champion. Randall lost that match 10-9, and the Raiders lost in the toughest way possible. A third set tiebreaker, 10-8, in the number 2 singles, but with Dylan Mira playing for Randall. Mira had earlier won his doubles match with Macaulay Webb, and that was 10-8 in the third set tiebreaker. So in 19 matches, it literally came down to just a very little bit. 15 of his 16 players were named All-District. The Raiders were led all season by Miera, John Stevens, David Stevens, and Drew Norman, and they finished with a 25-2 record. Said Coach Norman, in sports, you learn real-life lessons. When you compete and play sports, you experience the trauma of losing and the highs of winning. No doubt he's built a powerhouse tennis program in the Canyon ISD, the Hall of Fame Tennis Coach of the Year for the second time from Randall High School, Darby Norman. Congratulations. In track, Darren Flowers, who restarted the West Texas A&M program from nothing several years ago, continues to build and grow a program that is now one of the top 10 programs, both men and women, in all of NCAA Division II. He was named the Lone Star Conference Women's Coach of the Year after the Lady Buffs won their first ever conference title this past spring. The Lone Star meet was just a prelude to the national meet. The women finished 4th in the nation with 36 points, tying for the program's highest finish. The men finished 8th nationally with 27 points. For the first time in school history, WT had both teams in the top 10 nationally, and was one of 3 schools at the national meet to have both teams in the top 10. The men were led by Duke Kaczynski, who had an upset national win in the discus. On the women, Riley Caputin was an All-American in 3 events, second in the triple jump, sixth in the long jump, and sixth in the high jump. In all, Darren coached 10 All-Americans in 6 events in the women, while the men had 6 All-Americans in 4 events. Accepting is his wife, Kristen Flowers, for the second time the Hall of Fame Coach of the Year from West Texas A&M, Darren Flowers. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Appreciate it. In volleyball, Bushland coach Janine Udy had a team in 2016 that had lost in the state finals the year before. The mission, well, to win one more playoff match than the previous year. That's easier said than done sometimes, even if you are a traditional power like Janine has made Bushland into. Injuries, a bad match, hot team, who knows? But the Lady Falcons were a focused and determined group after falling in the 4A state title game the year before. A 43-3 record says all that about needs to be said. Once in the playoffs, Bushland defeated Lamesa, Pecos, Denver City, Abilene Wiley, and Glen Rose, losing only 1 game in those 5 matches. At the state tournament, the Lady Falcons rolled past Liberty Hill in the semifinals in 3 games for a rematch with Argyle for the 4A crown. The year before, Argyle had swept Bushland, but this time it's a different story. Led by tournament MVP Jayla Norman, libero Ali Gandy, and Jaylee Sims, Bushland won the state title, their 4th in school history, and their 2nd in 4 years under Coach Udy, with a 25-23, 27-25, 21-25, 25-19 win. Said Argyle coach Clark Oberly, Bushland was a total package. Today, they were just better than we were. She was the Texas Sports Writers Association 4A Coach of the Year, and for the 2nd year in a row, the Hall of Fame Volleyball Coach of the Year from Bushland High School, Janine Udy. Great year. Congratulations. Great year. In wrestling, in 2016, wrestling coach David Carino had a full but fulfilling plate. 4 years ago, he picked up the girls program when they began competing for the first time. And for the 2nd year in a row, both his boys and girls won District 4 5A titles. The boys with 208 points, beating Bushland by 18, and the girls with 162 points, defeating Hereford by 22. At the regional level, the Raider boys finished 4th with 122.5 points, but at the state tournament, Coach Carino took his 5 Randall wrestlers there to compete, and compete they did. They very nearly pulled off a state championship. Led by state champions Baylor Thompson at 126 pounds, Christian McBroom at 170, and Jonathan Ortegon at 106 pounds, the Raiders scored 99.5 points against the best high school wrestlers in the state. That was good enough for 3rd overall, narrowly finishing behind state champion Rockwall Heath's 105 points and runner-up Frisco Centennial's 101. A motivator, a technician, and a former state champion himself. For the 2nd time in 4 years, the Hall of Fame Wrestling Coach of the Year from Randall High School, David Carino. David, great job. Thank you. Thank you. Great job. Great job. Thank you. Well, join me once again in recognizing the 11 Hall of Fame Coaches of the Year in 2016. Well, the Leslie and Nard Cazell Big Play Award goes to the person or persons who execute what is determined to be the biggest play of the year, 2016. Boy, there's always a lot to choose from, but only one can win. And this one came at a most dramatic time about a year ago in the high school basketball playoffs. To present this award is Hall of Fame committee member Phil Woodall.
The Leslie and Nard Cazell Big Play Memorial Award goes to an athlete who made an outstanding or crucial play during the year. Cazell was one of the founding fathers of competitive gymnastics and watched happily as the sport experienced a boom in popularity in recent years. Starting just after World War II, Gazelle founded Nard's Gymnastics School in Amarillo and trained hundreds of future collegiate, national, and youth champions. He was one of the first to train girls in the sport. In 1994, the United States Gymnastics Federation honored him with the organization's Lifetime Achievement Award. Gazelle was just the fifth person so honored by the Federation. He graduated from Amarillo High in 1933. He had an interest in swimming and diving as a child. When he joined the Navy, he discovered a trampoline the Navy used in training and fell in love with tumbling and acrobatics. After the war, Gazelle discovered children could get scholarships for tumbling and gymnastics, and he decided to coach. He soon developed a thriving school and coached many national trampoline and all-around gymnastics champions.
Chad Fox later on will be doing the Nard Gazelle impression as he coached him earlier, so that will be wonderful. Well, the big play, boy, there were so many to choose from. The committee always has a difficult time. I love the putt that Kyle Kelting made in the Budweiser partnership to win that, to propel he and Derek into the Coors Tournament of Champions. But the play, and again, I cannot see from here. Hopefully we have it on the air, but this was up in Stinnett in the regional quarterfinals. 1,200 people at Stinnett. I understand it's a magnificent facility. And there was a sophomore in the Canadian basketball team by the name of Matthew Lynch. They get into double overtime against Panhandle. It's tied up 55-55, and Lynch gets a pass out on the right wing with under 10 seconds to go, dribbles to the top of the key, takes a J, and he's fouled with 1.8 seconds to do. He had to make one of the two to win the game for Canadian. As Coach Kim Mulkey of the Baylor women's basketball team told me about a week and a half ago, when her team shot like 36% from the line, nobody's guarding you when you're 15 feet away from the basket. Have you thought about that? Guess who sank it? Matthew Lynch. Canned the first free throw. You got 1.8 seconds to do. What are you going to do? Has anyone ever tried not to make a free throw? It's extremely difficult. For me, I can't even make one, so it wouldn't make any difference. I would have been perfect for it. But he intentionally missed it. Rebound, Panhandle couldn't score, and it propelled the Canadian Wildcat basketball team to the double overtime victory, 56-55 over Panhandle, and initially onto the state championship, in which the Canadian Wildcats win back-to-back championships, not only in basketball, but prior to that, also in football. So the Leslie and Nard Gazelle Big Play Award this year goes to Canadians Matthew Lynch.
I just really like to thank the committee and the Texas Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame for this huge honor. I mean, getting this award and in the presence of all these great athletes and coaches, I mean, I couldn't ask for a bigger blessing. I just really like to, first of all, thank my parents for just always supporting me in everything I do, and it doesn't matter what sport it is, they're there for everything. And I just really couldn't have made this play without my teammates. And throughout the year, each player on our team made big plays. And I mean, I just got this award for this play, but I'm sure there were bigger plays throughout the year that my other teammates made plays. I'd really like to thank my coaches mainly. Coach Copley really has had confidence in me ever since my freshman year, and it takes a lot of guts to put a sophomore on the line to advance to the regional tournament. Kind of what was going through my head in that moment, I mean, after I made the first one, I mean, the pressure was sort of off, but I mean, I grew up practicing free throws to make them, and I've never tried to intentionally miss one, but I mean, Coach Copley said that was the best thing to do at the time, and luckily I was able to do it. So I just really like to thank everyone for giving me this award. Thank you.
I'm just getting some pointers, that's all.
Special Achievement Awards were started a number of years ago to recognize athletes or teams who often maybe not fit in the 11 sports or whose achievements within them still merited special recognition. To present these 5 Special Achievement Awards is Hall of Fame committee member Steve West. Steve?
If you follow sports in the Texas Panhandle, you're well aware of Joe Lombard's incredible career at Nazareth and Canyon High Schools. Lance talked about several of these earlier, but the one that really stood out to me, he won his 1,000th game before he lost his 100th. And if you follow basketball, that's just incredible. Now 1285 and 120. In addition, he's won 18 state championships at Nazareth and Canyon. So how do you improve on the experience of winning a state championship? Maybe by doing so not once, but twice in the same tournament where your son, Tate Lombard, leads his wall team to the state championship. In 2014 and again in 2016, Joe led his Canyon Lady Eagles to the 4A and 5A state titles at the same tournament where Tate was leading his Wall Lady Hawks to the 2A and 3A state titles. At the start of this week, Canyon's ranked 3rd in the state 5A division and Wall is ranked 3rd in the state 3A division. So stay tuned, they may be back, you never know. Receiving special achievement awards for these incredible performances, the father-son duo of Joe and Tate Lombard. This young man is from Rome, Texas. He won the school's first individual national title with an upset win in the discus. He entered with just the 13th best throw among 22 throwers. He threw 175 feet 2 inches in the prelims, which put him in second place overall. Another competitor threw 181 feet to begin the finals, dropping him to third place. Without hesitation, he came back to throw 189 feet 4 inches, a personal best, to win the event. From West Texas A&M University, Duke Kaczynski. This young lady was an All-American in 3 events at the national meet. Think about that, All-American in 3 events at the national meet. A native of New Guinea, she was second in the triple jump with a school record jump of 42 feet, 3/4 inches. She also set a school record in the long jump with a jump of 20 feet, 5 inches, good enough for a 6th place finish. She was also 6th in the high jump with a jump of 5 feet, 8 inches. She received the David Noble Award given to the top athlete at the Lone Star Conference meet by winning the long jump with a jump of 20 feet, 1/2 inches, then won the triple jump with a jump of 40 feet, 10.5 inches, and placed second in the high jump. From West Texas A&M University, Relly Caputin. This young lady won her second consecutive 1A state golf championship with a 2-day total of 152. This was 13 shots better than the runner-up. She helped lead Fort Elliott to a 6th place finish at the state tournament. She also won the 2015 state championship by shooting a 2-day total of 154, a 7-shot victory over the 2nd place medalist. At last year's Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame ceremonies, this young lady was named the Golf Athlete of the Year. From Briscoe, Fort Elliott High School, Shaylee Goad. Finally, it's fitting in a year where the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame is inducting Chad Fox that we recognize an Amarillo native who excels in the world of trampoline gymnastics. Shaylee Donovan, a 2014 graduate of Amarillo High School, had an incredible year in 2016 as a trampoline gymnast. In June at the 2016 USA Gymnastics Championships, Shaylee won the gold medal and title of national champion in trampoline gymnastics. Shaylee missed an automatic berth on the Olympic squad by 0.4 of a point, but made the Olympic team as the alternate and traveled with the United States contingent to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Shaylee couldn't be here today, so accepting her Special Achievement Award for her national championship and spot on the U.S. Olympic team is her father, Shane Donovan.
You know, in high school athletics in the state of Texas, the very pinnacle is a state championship in a team or individual sport. So many good teams in this state, so many good individuals. They all fall, so many fall short, be it bad luck or an injury, or they gave their best and it still just wasn't quite enough. It is hard to be a state champion. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be special. But there are those who do reach the top, who stand above all others in their classification and in their sport. They are state champions. This year, for the first time, the Hall of Fame is recognizing them to say, if nothing else, well done, and congratulations to all state champions from 2016. They've all been invited here today. Most are in the audience, some are on stage. Some are away from college, but many are here. So when you hear your name or your team's name, would you please stand and remain standing until all have been announced, and then we will acknowledge all of you. In the team sports, in basketball, Canadian boys, Class 2A. The Canyon girls, Class 5A. In golf, the Happy Boys, Class 1A. And the Wellington girls in Class 2A. In cross country, the Hartley girls in Class 1A. They're in the back. And the Randall girls in Class 5A. In volleyball, Bushland, Class 4A. And in Class 5A, Amarillo High. Individually, in wrestling, Micah Gutierrez of Tascosa, 148 pounds. Jonathan Ortegan of Randall, 106 pounds. Mario Vasquez Paladuro, 132 pounds. Zach Diaz, Boys Ranch, 160 pounds. Christian McBroom of Randall, 170 pounds. And Khalil Gibson of Paladuro, 220 pounds. In golf, she was just up here, Shaylee Goad, Fort Elliott, Class 1A medalist. In track, Molly Mounsey of Follette, Class 1A shot put and discus. Michaela Weavers of Happy, Class 1A 100 meters. Jake Merrill of Valley, Class 1A 800 and 1600 meters. Andrew Rueda of Wellington, the Class 2A 3200 meters. Brooklyn Tompkins of Panhandle, the Class 2A shot put. Tanner Stone of Stratford, the Class 2A shot put. Deja Noble Williams of Shamrock in the Class 2A 300 hurdles. Vega Girls, 2A 1600 relay. The Canadian boys in the 2A 1600 relay. And in cross country, Butari Ruganarwa, Class 5A, Amarillo High. Your UIL state champions for 2016. Thank you and congratulations. Well, the Dick Reisenhoover Award goes each year to a sports figure whose accomplishments reach beyond the Texas Panhandle, just as Reisenhoover did when this local broadcaster became the Texas Rangers' first play-by-play radio man in 1972. To present the award is Hall of Fame committee member, Globe News sports editor, Lance Launer.
The Dick Reisenhoover Award honors a person who received national sports recognition during the year. Dick Reisenhoover was born in Childress and lived most of his early years at Center, a community east of Childress. He played freshman basketball and baseball at the University of Texas, then went into the service where he coached and played on the baseball team. Returning to the University of Texas, he played on the 1950 Longhorn National Championship baseball team. In 1957, Reisenhoover moved to Amarillo and worked at KGNC Radio and Television, where he became the voice of the Gold Sox and served as colorman for Warren Hasse on WTSU football games. He moved to Dallas in 1970 and immediately fell into Super Bowl coverage with the Dallas Cowboys, doing some preseason Cowboy games and the Texas-Oklahoma TV game one year. Later, when the Texas Rangers went to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, he did the TV game the first year, then went on to the network where he became the voice of the Texas Rangers. In 1974, Reisenhoover became the 31st honoree and the first sportscaster installed in the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. Dick died of cancer on the opening day for the Texas Rangers in 1978.
And this year's Reisenhoover winner doesn't call out her own play-by-play while doing her volleyball thing. That's what Dick did at Childress High School during basketball games so he could remember what happened during the game. But she certainly lives up to the past winners, and it's quite a list. It includes 1974 American League Rookie of the Year and Big League manager Mike Hargrove of Perryton, Super Bowl champions Kenny King of Clarendon and John Ayers of Canyon, Olympic wrestling gold medalists Brandon Slay of Tascosa, and current PGA Tour golfer Ryan Palmer from Amarillo High. Jan Barker has been the Amarillo High volleyball coach for 30 years, and she reached rare air last November, winning her 10th state volleyball title. This is the most state crowns any coach in the history of Amarillo AISD has accomplished. Adding a little icing to her year was Jan was named co-national high school coach of the year by the American Volleyball Coaches Association. We all know volleyball is, the Texas Panhandle is amazing. It seems like almost yearly we get a 6A, 5A, or 4A state champion to return the gold ball back this way. But that's not the way it always was. And when Jan first started out at Bowie Middle School, she could have never imagined what her life would become. That's because her first high school job in the AISD was the assistant basketball coach at Caprock. She reminded then AD Ed Lennox, "I'm a volleyball coach, but I will try to do this." A year later in 1987, she was given the Amarillo High volleyball job, and in 1988, the Lady Sandys won their first of 10 titles under Barker. HS is now considered one of the elite programs in Texas. Jan has led Amarillo High to 4 consecutive state titles in 2006 to 2009. Her program is nationally ranked many times. And our list of landing players at the D1-2 level, maybe longer than Santa's on Christmas Day. It's an amazing long list. And Barker has won many Coaches of the Year, from the Globe News Super Team to the District Coaches of the Year. Her assistant coaches say a couple of things are her main strengths. And that's when things get tough out there or are real emotional, she seems to be able to calm things down. And then one of her talents is just getting to know her players more off the court so it's bonded. See, I talked to her earlier, and she has many fond memories, like especially coaching her two daughters, Danielle and Brienne, for a 6-year stretch. And by the way, they won 4 state titles during that time. Her overall record is an insane 1,077 and 167 losses, leaving her just 3 shy of becoming the all-time winningest high school volleyball coach in Texas. Of course, she's had a chance to move on, but she simply said this: I love my job, I love my school, I'm where I want to be. We are honored she's here today. Please help me in welcoming the 2016 Dick Reisenhoover Award winner, Jan Barker.
Wow, what an honor to be on the same list as all those people that Lance just called off that got this award before. You know, getting the AVCA Coach of the Year award, Co-Coach of the Year, allowed me to go to Columbus and coach the All-American game, which was really one of the greatest opportunities I've had in my career, and one that I'll never ever forget. Coaching a bunch of incredible All-Americans, what eventually are going to be our Olympians, and that was one of the greatest things I could ever do. Another thing that happened to me there, I was given my award by a man by the name of Terry Pettit, and those of you who are not in the volleyball world, he is considered one of the John Woodens of volleyball. And to be able to talk with him and to be interviewed by him was a great honor for me. But you don't become successful all by yourself. And, John Mark made a comment about athletes looking at coaches and saying, well, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be there. In all honesty, every coach will tell you that's very true. You can be a great coach, but if you don't have great athletes, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get these kind of awards. And I've been so blessed with the athletes I've had, like this year's team, winning a state championship. They're great. And Emerson over here, I sometimes I get a little teary-eyed thinking that I'm not going to have that team again. I've done that numerous times. I've been very, very blessed with a lot of great athletes. But I've also been very blessed by a lot of great assistant coaches who have put a lot of time, energy, and love into the program as much as I have, including Janine over here, who's winning state championships herself too. So I want to dedicate this to my athletes, to my coaches, and to my husband, Danny, who's by my side all the time, and he's been great. One more person I want to thank, and I know he's not here anymore, but Mr. Ed Lennick, who was the AISD athletic director, whom I admire so much. He took the chance to hire me, this young, unknown basketball coach from Caprock. He hired me, and he took a lot of grief for doing it. So thank you, Mr. Lennick. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jan. The D. Henry Memorial Award is annually one of the highlights of these ceremonies. For the winner embodies the best of what really sports can offer, and that's namely overcoming challenges and excelling despite obstacles. To present this award is Hall of Fame committee member, again, Phil Woodall.
The D. Henry Memorial Award goes to an athlete who overcomes adversity with class, heart, and determination during the year. D. Henry was an Amarillo native and graduate of West Texas State University. He is known for his career as a coach and teacher. At one time, he was the head coach of Canadian High School. Additionally, he taught for 6 years in Amarillo at Stephen F. Austin Junior High. Henry was a very popular summer baseball coach. He was stricken by cancer, which caused one of his legs to be amputated. At the end of his life, he was a YMCA baseball coach. Despite his battle with cancer, he continued to coach the team from his bed, even though he was too ill to make it to the field. During his bedridden days, his parents and students presented him with a 14-inch television for entertainment and $348 in cash. He died in 1960 at the age of 39.
As many of you know or don't know, I grew up in Fort Worth. I used to make fun of the Texas Panhandle growing up. First time I ever heard of West Texas State was 1966. A friend of mine said, "I'm going to West Texas State to go to college." I think my first thing is, why in the world would you ever go to that godforsaken Panhandle? Well, I've been here 42 and a half years, and I tell you why I'm here, because it's of the people. We have strong athletes, strong coaches, and strong people up here in the Texas Panhandle. And this award every year honors an athlete who has gone through some physical problems. Now, up in Stratford, Texas, there are basically 3 sports: football in the fall, pregame, and spring practice. No offense to the other sports, but they like the football in Stratford. Well, this young man played on the football team, but he's had a couple of injuries to his knees and some infections that went with it. As a sophomore on the football team, this young man in August of 2014 was in practice, tore his ACL, meniscus. They did a hamstring to replace the ligament. He got an infection. They drained 2,000 cc's of fluid off his knee. He had an allergic reaction to the antibiotics. But he was cleared to play in March of 2015. First practice as a junior in August of 2015. He gets hit on the side of that braced knee. More swelling, more draining of the knee, more infections. And the knee had rejected the hamstring graft. August 12th of 15, surgery. Well, nothing left in that ACL. That meant the end of a football career. But he decided to take up something different. Could have taken up golf. I don't know whether they have a golf team up there or not, but he decided to go into shooting, trap shooting. February of 2016 at the San Antonio Stock Show, he shot 88 of 100 clay pigeons, but he was mad because he'd been averaging about 96 out of 100 prior to that time. Well, in June of that year, the Texas High School Finals Rodeo down in Abilene, he shot 96 of 100 of those clay pigeons and advanced to the National Finals Rodeo in Gillette, Wyoming. 110 shooters in 39 states in that big event up there. Had one person had 97. A girl from Utah with 98. 2 others had 99. Well, what did that mean for this young man from Stratford, Texas? He had to shoot 100 of 100. He did. 4 no-miss rounds of 25 shots each. He's continued to go on to look at things down the future. His family built him a trap box on his land on the east side of Stratford. Works out sometime at the Stratford Gun Club and also here at the Amarillo Gun Club. But this young man epitomizes what the D. Henry Memorial Award is all about. He's a champion trap shooter. From Stratford, please welcome Brett Bernard.
First and foremost, I'd just like to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because without him, none of this would be possible. Next, I'd like to thank the D. Henry family. From the little I've read about this man, he was a great person who loved what he did, and I am honored to have received this award bearing his name. Additionally, I'd like to thank my parents for supporting me in everything I do, and then finally, the whole community of Stratford for showing me all the love and support along the way. Thank you.
Well, all right. Now to the signature portion of today's ceremonies, and that's the addition of the newest class of 5 to the previous 170 into the Texas Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. You know, there's something unique about the Panhandle, and if you've lived here for any length of time, you know that. Maybe it's the location. Maybe it's because we're often an afterthought to the bigger populations downstate. Maybe it's because we have to fight a lot harder for what we deserve. But there's a togetherness, a sense of oneness, of unity that exists here that's hard to find in most regions. You know, in sports, we have some bitter rivalries. We fight each other like cats and dogs on the field or the court or on the mat until we take on outsiders, and then it's all for one. That's never more apparent than in the high school playoffs when there's only a few teams left and every town feels like it's their own. You know, there's a pride here, perhaps born because of where we are. But when an athlete or coach excels beyond our borders or within over a period of time, they no longer have hometowns. They're just from here. They're a part of us. Their success is our success. Their heartbreak can be our heartbreak. And in a simple but sincere way today, as is done every second Sunday in February, we honor them the best way that we can. Really, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you for making us proud of the Panhandle. Thanks for calling it home. You know, all of today's inductees at one time or another have been around more elaborate fanfare, been in more exciting locales, competed in or had their teams play in front of bigger crowds or brighter spotlights. And although this is pretty nice, it's not extravagant or elaborate because, you know, it's just not us. And if it's not because we don't see this as any less important. It's just that we don't need all the frills. We're down to earth and simple, and so are our ceremonies. You know, when a person becomes a stranger in his hometown, something sad has happened. Someone has turned his back on the other. The past is forgotten, roots are pulled up and thrown away, and a part of them is gone, never to return. On the other hand, I can think of no better honor than from those where you grew up, where your career started, or where it continued for as long as it could. It's a place where you learned to play basketball, Kids Inc. You went on to set 19 school records for one of the top Division II programs in the country. It's a place where you wore your first football uniform in elementary school, and then went on to play in the NFL for 10 years. A place where you were sent to burn off energy at the local gymnastics school and won national, international, and NCAA championships. A place where sports proved to be an outlet in the rough days of the Depression and Dust Bowl and paved the way for an outstanding college athletic career and coaching career. And it's a place where an elementary school principal strongly encouraged him to run, and run he did all the way to a national championship. You know, to be honored by your hometown says a lot about you as an athlete and a coach, but it says so much more about you as a person. So let's get to it and install the 59th class into the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. Vanessa Wells' first experience in organized basketball fittingly came through Kids Inc., 3rd grade, about 1974. Except they didn't have enough for a 3rd grade team, and she had to play on the 4th grade team. No biggie. She played in a lot in the park with her brothers and other boys, and she was always playing with boys. And as she said, it helped me get better, probably helped them get better too. Then she made her way on to Paladura High School, where she played solely against girls and those of her own age, and you can probably guess how she did. She also played volleyball, but that was kind of to bide her time in the basketball because at 5'9" and she was quick, she was fast, she was athletic, she could dominate. As a high school senior in 1984, she led the Lady Dons to the playoffs for the first time in school history since basketball was a UIL sport in the mid-1970s. She averaged a team-high 20 points and 7 rebounds for Pearl Trimble's Lady Dons, who finished 23-3 and into the 5A regional tournament. She was all-district and on the Globe News super team. You know, Vanessa had her choice of colleges, and she said last month that she thought she wanted to go away from home to college. But she said God led her to WT, And Bob Schneider can still give a hearty amen to that. It fulfilled the dream of her mothers to go to college and play basketball, and it allowed her parents an opportunity to see her play. Coach Trimble, a former flying queen at Wayland, prepared her well for the rigors of college basketball. She and others came along at a perfect time for WT basketball. Coach Schneider had been at WT for about 5 years, and the program was about to turn into a national Division II power. In Vanessa's 4 years at WT, from 1985 to 88, the Lady Buffs were 112-16. That might even impress Joe Lombard. Her strength was her versatility. She excelled at point guard, wing, post, wherever she was needed, wherever there might be a place to fit in. I could not see the big picture, Vanessa said, but Coach Schneider did when he moved me inside. And I had a conversation with myself that if I was good as I thought I was, that I could be good no matter what position I played. Vanessa was a two-time Lone Star Conference Player of the Year, winning outright in 1987 and sharing the honors with teammate Teresa Tenner in 1988. She was WT's first ever Kodak All-American, receiving that award in 1987. In 1988, her senior year, the Lady Buffs had still probably the best season in school history. They won their first 33 games before falling in the national championship game. Vanessa that year was named the Division II National Player of the Year, where she averaged 19.9 points despite giving up 2 and 3 inches inside where she played post. When she left WT, her name was all over the record books. Career leader in 19 offensive and defensive categories. Her career scoring mark of 1,906 points stood for more than 15 years. She is still among the all-time leader in steals and assists, as well as games played with 128. In 2000, she was named one of the top 100 sports legends of the 20th century by the Amarillo Globe News. Vanessa has been coaching at various places since, particularly in the Fort Worth area. She was most recently an athletic coordinator at the middle schools in Mansfield, outside of Fort Worth. Her and her husband, Michael, will celebrate 22 years of marriage next month. They have an 8th grade son and one who is swimming now currently at Texas A&M. Among the very best to play for the Lady Buffs from West Texas State in Palo Duro, the 171st member of the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame, Vanessa Wells Thibert. Congratulations. Congratulations. Excellent job. Congratulations.
Good afternoon. It is such an honor and a tremendous blessing to be selected to the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. I first want to give thanks to God. He is so good. And as I look back on all the blessings, all the wonderful people that He positioned in my life, I realized my steps were guided. God has a way of putting us where we need to be. It wasn't just about me. It was about bringing good happiness to a lot of others. Whenever there's success, there's happiness, there's joy. There was a lot of success at Palo Duro when we were able to make it to the regionals. We brought happiness to our school, we brought happiness to our city, and I mean, it was one of the best things that we had, we were able to accomplish. And also there was happiness at West Texas, and it had a lot of success, and it impacted a lot of people. For example, we're making it to the NCAA's championship game my senior year. And I tell you, we had an awesome booster club that followed us to South Dakota. And I mean, we had a fan club bus that brought lots of students, a lot of support, a lot of the community to South Dakota to support us in that championship game. Some who needed it, that success, some people needed it, and some were just in the right place at the right time to be a part of that success as well. We always hear God has a plan for each of us. Well, I believe that with all my heart. All of this that brings us here today was all part of his plan. My guided steps, the good times, the bad times, all contribute to who we become. These experiences have shaped and molded my life in ways I never thought of. I am blessed. I thank God for his guidance. I thank God for his grace and his unconditional love. I am truly grateful for everyone that have supported me. I want to give thanks to Kids Inc., Jim Lackey and his staff. Jim and I go back a long way, good friends for a long time. I also want to say thank you to Globe News, all the media, and thank you to the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame Selection Committee. I also want to thank Coach Bob Snyder, who's here today, and also Coach Pearl Trimble, who were awesome coaches, for pushing me to be my best. I also want to thank all my past teammates and classmates for their contributions as well. And you know that saying, it says, they used to say it takes a village. Well, it took a village. It took a lot. There was a lot of support behind me, and I just want to say I'm so thankful and grateful for that. Last but not least, I want to thank my family and friends, my beautiful mother, who has been the solid foundation in my life, my sons, Michael II, who's not here with us because he's on his mission to compete in the SEC swim championship this week, and then my youngest son, Marquise Stibert, who I call my mini-me. Right now, I coach his boys' 14U team, so and I'm getting great pleasure out of doing that as well. And to my better half of 22 years, he is an amazing man, my #1 fan, my husband, Michael Thibert. And I also want to thank my brothers for being here as well. Again, thank you. It is definitely a pleasure to be back in the place where it all began, Amarillo. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Vanessa, you have to keep this. Congratulations. You know, when Brian Millard was 7 years old and living in Sioux City, Iowa, he got a Johnny Unitas Baltimore Colts uniform with a single bar across the helmet for Christmas. Like any 7-year-old, he put it on, ran out in the middle of the snow to break it in. A snowy yard, might as well have been cloud nine. By the 6th grade, the Millards had moved to Dumas, and Brian, who was considerably bigger than anyone else, showed up for the first football practice for their elementary school, Hillcrest Hawks, wearing that outsized Colts uniform. Hillcrest had a pretty good-sized, rather ornery player, a bit of a bully, that others had kind of avoided for a year or two, except Brian, who didn't know any better. First day, he knocked the kid down. Then he knocked him down again. By the 3rd day, he was everyone's unofficial bodyguard and everyone's good friend. And that would be the theme for Brian Millard for a long time, knocking down bigger guys and being looked up to by his teammates. He was a 6'4", 260-pound offensive lineman for the Demons in the late 1970s. One of the few bright spots, but a very bright spot for some average Dumas teams. But there was no overlooking Brian, who combined size, quickness, and strength. He threw the shot put more than 63 feet, one of the longest throws in Panhandle history for anyone not named Randy Matson. The University of Texas, as many did, offered him, and he went to the Longhorns. He would shine under the tutelage of offensive line coach Leon Manley. Being in the offensive line in Texas in the early 1980s was almost a ticket to the NFL. When Brian started in that line in 1981 and 1982, all 5 starters and 3 backups went to the NFL. He was now 6'5", and 290 pounds. He was voted team captain, and as a senior in 1982, that same year he was named All-Southwest Conference at tackle. He was drafted in the 12th and last round of the NFL in 1983. He made what turned out to be a wise decision. Believing that he was not quite ready for the NFL, Brian signed with the New Jersey Generals of the new United States Football League, which was owned by some owner by the name of Trump. He learned how to pass block and raised his game, and I guess he made the Generals great again. 2 years later, when the USFL folded, 4 NFL teams wanted to sign Brian. He chose Seattle. Rosters were expanded that year from 45 to 49 players, and those extra 4 spots, Brian humbly believed, was the reason he made the team. But halfway through his second season in 1986, Brian was moved from tackle to guard because of an injury to a starter. And he started that game despite being unfamiliar with the position, and he would not leave for a very long time. Unbelievably durable to go along with his talent, Brian once played in 2,646 consecutive downs over 42 games, and in the NFL, that's almost impossible. Twice he was named an alternate to the Pro Bowl. For 8 years, he was a fixture in the Seahawks offensive line. A chronic back problem finally caught up to him, forcing him to retire in 1993 after 10 years in pro football, 8 of them in the NFL. In 1997, in voting on NFL.com for the all-time Seahawks team, Brian was voted the best offensive lineman in franchise history. He was also named to the all-time Seahawks team on their 35th anniversary in 2011. In 2000, he was named one of the 100 Texas Panhandle sports legends of the 20th century by the Globe News. These days, Brian lives in the Austin area, and unfortunately, circumstances, however, prevented him from attending today's ceremonies. But in his place is his sister, Kay Moore of Dumas, accepting for perhaps the greatest offensive lineman in Texas Panhandle history. From the Seattle Seahawks, the Texas Longhorns, and the Dumas Demons, the 172nd member of the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. Brian Millard. Okay, thank you for doing this. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm going to say thank you to the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame and Kids Inc. on behalf of my brother Brian and our family. He is honored by this induction. He's not able to be here personally, but I can tell you that he would have started with a somewhat decent joke, but gone on to tell you that football is his life. He loves it, always will love it, but it's the coaches, the players, and the people that made it a great career, and for that he's very thankful. And unfortunately, he would leave you all with a hook 'em horns, and I have to do it, so hook 'em horns. Thank you very much.
Okay, please send our congratulations to Brian. That'd be great. Before the digital age, the Amarillo Globe News files were cut and pasted articles that were put into manila folders and filed in our library. It takes 2 hands to pull Chad Fox's files out, and you just kind of let them fall all over the table. But from one article 36 years ago, this is how Chad Fox spent June 20th, 1981, at age 14. He went to baseball practice early that morning. Then he went to the local AAU Junior Olympics meet where he won 3 golds and a silver. Then he was usher in his sister's wedding. And then finally, late that evening, he threw a 1-hitter for his YMCA baseball team, Kelly's Kids. Also later in that article, Polly McCoy, Chad's mother, said, "He can be a brat. He's a normal 14-year-old mouthy boy. He can be egotistical and has his moods, but he's a good kid." If you want a second opinion, one of the real influences of his life, gymnastics coach Nard Gazelle, also said, "He can get in the doghouse, but never so deep he can't get out." Well, the last part is a story for another day. What is a story for today is that Chad Fox is the greatest gymnast, tumbler, trampolinist, whatever sport you twist and turn and flip in the air that this area has ever produced. And there have been some good ones that have come from the Panhandle. His mother worked at for Nard Cazell at Nard's Gymnastics, and she knew the best way to burn off youthful energy. I mean, Chad was riding a bike without training wheels at age 3. And how to keep the house in one piece was to get Chad enrolled as soon as possible. Goodness, you talk about a duck to water. At age 8, he was on his way, winning top all-around gymnast honors in his age group in the state of Texas. In the disciplines of power tumbling and trampoline, he was among the best in the world at various age groups. By age 14, he was competing in Johannesburg and Pretoria, South Africa. By 1984, still at Paladura High School, the places he competed in international competition looked like a travel guide. Japan, Paris, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. By age 19, Chad had won 14 national titles in trampoline, mini trampoline and acro gymnastics, and 3 world tumbling titles. Tumbling may have been Chad's best sport growing up, but his second place in the world in trampoline in Japan in 1984 might have meant the most. It got him out of his comfort zone a bit, and it made his coach, Nard Cazell, an old trampolinist at heart, very proud. After graduation from Paladura, he was looking to compete in college. Colleges don't have trampoline and tumbling as NCAA sports, but they do have gymnastics, a discipline Chad had really not done since age 11. UNM coach Rusty Mitchell remembered Chad as a strong tumbler, and so they kind of worked out a deal, which is kind of a one-sided deal. There were no scholarships available, but if he could win an NCAA title, well, he'd get a full ride as a sophomore. Well, Chad would do a lot more than that. He won the NCAA title in the vault as a freshman in 1986, and in 1987, and in 1988, and in 1989 as a senior. He said NCAA history is the first male gymnast to win 4 individual titles in the same event. And to cap off his collegiate career as a senior, he added an NCAA title in floor exercise to the vault, becoming the first UNM gymnast to win 2 national titles in the same year. And he did so after having knee surgery on his medial meniscus that off-season. In 2011, he was inducted into the World Sports Acrobatics Society Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. Now at age 50, he has been coaching gymnastics and other disciplines in one form or another for nearly 30 years. Today he lives in Plano, where he has a gym, Texas Champions Gymnastics, helping coach those who were where he was 40 years ago. One of the top 100 Texas Panhandle sports legends in the 20th century is named by the Globe News in 2000. He's now the 173rd member of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. From Amarillo, the remarkable Chad Fox. Congratulations, my friend.
Wow, this is incredible. Let me get out my cell phone here. I just want to, first of all, thank Mark Ballou, for that great introduction and warm welcome. And I think he deserves a round of applause for doing a great job tonight. I'd also like to thank the selection committee for the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame for inducting me. This is a great honor. It's very humbling, and I think it's amazing to receive this award in Amarillo, Texas, my hometown. I'd also like to thank Kids Inc. for sponsoring this great event. It turned out wonderful, and it's a great, all these people that showed up, I think it's an awesome thing to do. Oh, also, sorry, a little nervous up here. Also, I'd like to congratulate all the inductees that received this award, and also all the incredible athletes that are to my right and to my left, and also out in the audience. Congratulations to all of you guys. You well deserved. In order for me to be up here today, it took a lot of big shoulders for me to stand on, and I want to thank all those people for that. I'd start out with thanking Nard Cazell, who was also the 111th inductee into the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. He was a mentor to me, and a very big influence, and kind of what guided me to decide to be a professional coach myself. I also want to thank Tim Hall, Jim Ammett, who was the USA team coach from 1982 to 1989 when I was a team member. And I would also like to thank Rusty Mitchell from the University of New Mexico, who was my coach and had guided me to win 5 NCAA championships. And finally, I would like to thank my family and friends for all your support throughout all the years. This would not be possible without you guys. Thank you for everything. And it's really, like Vanessa said, it's great to be back home in Amarillo. This is a wonderful award, and I just want to give a shout out to Vanessa. Go Dons. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Chad. It was the early 1930s, and Garland Head was a fourth grader living on a farm outside Clovis, New Mexico. And his dad, Joe, was trying to help his son out in school. He was going over his son's spelling words, working with him in this old Blue Book speller. If you're of a certain age, you might remember the Blue Book speller. His dad was just getting exasperated as Joe struggled with word after word. So he said, I'll tell you what, his dad said, I'll spell the word and you tell me what it is. So the word was barefoot. And Joe had said, B-A-R-E-F-O-O-T. And Garland thought for a second and blurted out, football. Well, with that, a frustrated father went into town, returned with a football, and said, I want you to learn something at school, and this may be your only option. Well, not quite. Garland Head would go on to graduate from high school, from college, serve in World War II, and coach and teach. So he had some smarts, but he did love sports too. Garland Head and Walter McNew are the second and third inductees going back to last year among the new veteran selections, those who competed in or coached at least 50 years ago. But both men's accomplishments are worthy under any conditions. Garland grew up during the double whammy of the Dust Bowl and Depression on that Clovis farm. Sports was an outlet, an inexpensive outlet. He was All-State in both football and basketball for the Wildcats, graduating in 1940. He was a strapping man, especially for those days, at about 6'2" and 190 pounds. From Clovis, he would just go down the road a little bit to play and study at Texas Tech. You know, in those days, it was not uncommon for really good athletes to play more than one sport in college. And Garland continued with football and basketball, as a running back and a guard. By 1942, he was an all-border conference in football and basketball. In 1943, he was named the Border Conference's Player of the Year. And something intervened, World War II. And so, as many people did at that time, they put their lives on hold for their country, and that's what Garland Head did. He was part of the Army's famed 101st Airborne, a paratrooper. We took part in combat in France and Belgium and Germany. And at the end of the war, 1945, like a lot of people, he just resumed his life like he'd never left, and he returned back to Tech. You know, how tough would it have been in football practice then? It says, hey, we're going to run some 40s. And he said, well, that's fine. As long as people aren't shooting at me, that's no problem. But he was, again, going back to 1946, he was all border conference in football and in basketball. Upon graduating from Tech in 1947, Garland took the first job offer he got as a coach and teacher in Spearman. Worked out pretty well because that's where he met his wife, Virginia. He was a head basketball coach and assistant in football there until 1951 when he accepted a similar offer at Dumas. And in 6 years from 1951 to 1957, his Dumas basketball team compiled a record of 110 and 48. His 1953 team, which finished 29-6, advanced to the 3A state championship game. Following the 1957 season, Garland had an opportunity to go back to this roots, to farming in Hansford County near his wife's hometown. He took that and then he farmed the rest of his life. In 1982, Garland was inducted into the Texas Tech Athletic Hall of Honor. Prior to that, in 1978, he became a Hansford County Commissioner, a position he held until his death at age 69 in 1991. Accepting today for the family is his son Ron from South Carolina, and as he comes up, maybe his family can stand as well, for an outstanding two-sport athlete in high school and college, a winning coach from Clovis, Tech, and Spearman, the 174th member of the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. Garland Head.
As he said, I'm Ron Head, and on behalf of his family and friends, I'd like to thank Kids Incorporated and all those that were responsible for his induction into the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame. Garland will be remembered by his family and friends not only for the things he accomplished on the sports field, but also by the positive impact he had on our lives and the lives of people he met. Garland didn't talk much about what he accomplished in sports, but he did talk a lot about the friends he made and the kids he coached. And I would like to take this opportunity to issue a challenge to all these young athletes here to try to strive to be a positive impact, not only in the sporting field, but also in life and all the people they meet. Again, if Dad was here today, he'd feel honored and blessed and humble to be getting this great award. Again, thank you from his family and friends.
Congratulations to the Head family. You know, Walter McNew was a version of Forrest Gump about 50 years before there was a Forrest Gump. I ran every day, he said. It was like a sickness. I never knew how far I ran. I just ran. It began in the 1940s at an elementary school here in Amarillo. The principal noticed something about Walter. Maybe it was his high energy or slight build or both, but he strongly encouraged him to run. And when you're 10 years old and the principal says you ought to be running, you run. And he did, usually alone, in the neighborhoods or just really wherever. And that was a time when if people ran, it was usually because, they were being chased. But when he got to Amarillo High in 1951 and 1952, he ran cross country. It was primarily a miler and a half miler in track. For all 3 years, he was a district and regional champion in the mile. And as a senior in 1954, in which he was team captain, Walter finished second in the mile at state. And all of that high school accomplishments was good enough to earn a scholarship and to sign with the University of Texas. Now, Texas from 1955 to 1958, he was even more of a distance runner, combining the mile with the 2 mile, and also on occasion a member of the distance medley and 4 mile relay. Walter experienced early success for the Longhorns, winning the 2 mile at the 1955 Southwest Conference meet, and he had the top times in the Southwest Conference in both the mile and the 2 mile in 1956. And it was in the fall of 1956 that Walter had one of those special days, a time every athlete hopes for at least once in his career. The occasion was the NCAA National Cross Country Championships in East Lansing, Michigan. Walter was among a field of more than 100 of the top collegiate runners for this 4 mile race in the country. A man named Henry Kennedy of Michigan State was the Big Ten champion. He was the heavy favorite, especially running on his own home course. He took the lead from the outset with a handful of runners not that far behind, one of them being Walter. Kennedy led after the first mile, after the second, after the third. But he couldn't shake Walter and another runner. And with less than half a mile left, Walter made his move. Kennedy tried to respond, but Walter answered. Then he began to pull away, and by the time he crossed the finish line, he won by 80 yards in 1955.7. The Associated Press, covering that meet, called him a comparative unknown. The Amarillo Globe News said, "Amarillo runner is national champion." He is also a member of the University of Texas Athletic Hall of Fame. Walter would marry Shirley Ford of Groover, whom he met at UT in 1958. They would have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. And for nearly 30 years, he was a director of Big Brothers, Big Sisters in the Dallas area. And for 35 years, he was an Army Reserve Medical Service Corps. In the early 1980s, he was continuing to run. He ran in 5 marathons, including the 1981 Boston Marathon. He ran until his knees said, hey, that's enough. And today he walks near his home in the Metroplex. A national champion from Amarillo and the University of Texas, the 175th member of the Hall of Fame, Mr. Walter McNew.
What am I supposed to say? I'm used to running. Anybody else want to run tonight? I'm just tied up. I'd like to run a mile, or 2 mile, or cross country. It doesn't matter anything. But just looking at you all, it's a real privilege to be here. And without them, particularly with my wife and my daughters, get shook up sometimes. Anyway, it's been a great life for me, and track was always important for me. You can see me running every night. You wanted to find me, I'd be out running somewhere. I would be late for meals, late for school, late for everything, but I thought, I've got to run. But you've already run. I got to run some more. What are you going to do? I'm going to run. What else can you do? Run. That was the only thing I knew you to do. I didn't have any other talents, but I could run. Not going to get rich running. So if anybody want to run, don't think you're going to get rich. But you get a lot of friends. You get a lot of time to think and reflect on a lot of things in your life. I don't run anymore, but I walk. I still remember those things, so it's probably better to walk than to run. But anyway, I met so many nice people, and God's been so good to me. A family, 2 daughters, or grandchildren. So to them and to you, I want to say thank you. Thank you, God.
Well, I hope you're not applauded out and acknowledge one last time our newest inductees into the Hall of Fame. Well, okay, before we move on to the second half of tonight's program, scared you, didn't I? Before we close, a few thank yous. I'd like to thank David Jones, Chairman of the Hall of Fame, for his direction, Executive Director of the Kids Inc., Jimmy Lackey, for their work. It's a new headline sponsor of the Hall of Fame. You heard Jimmy mention it before, but to Stacy Knight and Renee Stovall of Kids Inc., if you're thinking, boy, there's a lot of moving parts and this thing runs pretty well, all you need to know is that there were women pulling the strings that no one sees. Otherwise, I don't want to think about it. Also, appreciation goes to the sponsors who help make these ceremonies financially possible, and they are listed on the back of your program. For those who might have came in late, maybe you weren't hungry at 2 o'clock or you want seconds, we still have food and drink back there, and please feel free to hang around and fill up your plates, and as we say in Texas, visits with one another. Also, if you were an individual state champion recognized and you didn't receive a certificate, if you'll see Stacy afterwards, she will get that for you. In addition, Mike Haynes and Dave Wolfarth are at the back, and they have co-authored a book on the Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame, complete with extended biographies of all the inductees. And they'll be there with any books that you may be interested in purchasing. Again, thank you for your attendance. You know, it just wouldn't be much of a party if no one showed up. And now Hall of Fame committee member Jack Knight will offer our benediction, and upon his conclusion, you're dismissed. Thank you very much.
Let us pray. We thank you, Lord, for your presence with us this day, and we thank you for the time that we've had here to recognize the outstanding accomplishments of these players and coaches. We ask that you bless each person who took the time to gather here today, and for those who spent many hours putting together and taking part in this ceremony. We thank you for this food that has been prepared, and may your hand of protection be on all of us as we leave to go to our homes. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen. You're dismissed.
In front of there. Any individual state champions, your certificates, I think, are right over here where they're waving. Wave again, Renee. So if you're an individual state champion that was recognized, we have your certificates over there.